Guys, so today the main thing is to figure out how this computer works with the sound. So always technical issues here. Yeah, and then there's another class today at 6:30. Today it's flow, so it's kind of tough. So let me figure out how the sound works, that we have good sound this evening, and I'll see you guys later. So first problem already solved, thank God. So it looks kind of funny, but that was the problem. There's this new plug that they use for the sound output, and I was kind of thinking yesterday that that would probably be it, but yeah, anyway, I didn't have it, and that's the only adapter I have, so it looks kind of funny, but you know, it works. So good sound for this evening. First problem solved. So the moment the class started, of course, the whole thing with the sound didn't work. Oh man, I don't know. I have to figure this out, but sometimes it's just better to use an old computer where everything works, you know. The more modern that stuff is, sometimes the worse it gets. So, but that's for tomorrow. Today I thought I'd talk about the value of practice, because today, when I set everything up for class, I was thinking about that. That it's kind of funny that I ended up as a yoga teacher. Because when I started yoga, and I always tell this to my students, that I was probably the stiffest guy on planet Earth. Like, I remember my mom always said, you know, you're as stiff as your father, which was not a good thing, you know, because my father was not in good standing, and they got divorced, so she didn't like that guy. So I was thinking it's an odd thing that I ended up as a yoga teacher, because I really had no talent in being flexible. And that's also why I think it's so interesting, the whole idea of practicing whatever you want to get good at. For me, it was mainly, I mean, two things mainly, I would say, like photography and then also yoga. Today, we live in a world where sometimes I feel being good at something is not really valued. Because in a way, I think through the technical revolution, we have the feeling anybody can do it. I once had this insight in New York. I think it was a beauty bar, this bar on 14th Street, and the DJ pulled out his iPad. And in that moment, I knew that this is why it's not valued anymore, because everybody has an iPad. Why would I value somebody doing something on his iPad if I have an iPad at home? I mean, look at photography. When I went to New York in the 90s, sounds like it was a long time ago, and it was, there were some masters of photography, Richard Avedon or Irving Penn. So those were considered masters of their trade. People would work for them for free just to figure out how they do things. How did these people get good at something? I once worked in a dark room in New York for photography called LTI Color Labs, and all the big photographers dropped their film off there. I thought it was a good idea to do this at night to be able to shoot during the day. Unfortunately, I was during the day too tired because I was working all night. So I had a friend there, Lenny. And Lenny was a Chinese guy who was the master of the darkroom. So you walked in there and he would do something with his hands and then burn stuff in and dodge and burn, and then it looked just good. He said, yeah, it took me 30 years to really get good at this. I mean, 30 years. Who would put 30 years into something nowadays? There's a so-called 10,000 hour rule that when you do something for 10,000 hours, you master that. And it might be not right, but it could be right because it takes a long time to really get good at something. Personally, never felt particularly really talented at anything. Even in photography, when people would tell me, well, Carsten, you're so talented, I would look at them in disbelief. And it's the same thing in yoga. I mean, I had no talent. I still have no talent. In photography, I had no talent. I still have no talent. But I kept it up. I kept on practicing. I got better. And eventually, I was able to take pictures that I would really consider good. And eventually, I was able to stand on my head. Eventually, I was able to balance my arms. Eventually, I was doing things that I thought I could never do. And I think that's really the intrinsic value of practice. Because suddenly you do things you thought you would never be able to do. And that's what I always taught my students in yoga, that look, when you do this, and when you can do a headstand, when you do something that you thought you would never be able to do, then suddenly you can say, hold on, maybe I had a wrong idea about myself. Maybe there's much more that I can do if I just keep on practicing. So obviously the part of keep on practicing is the hardest part. It's not easy for any of us. But if you're really inspired, if you really say, I want to get there, and don't even worry so much about the outcome. I think it's just like showing up for work, like with everything else. When you do your class, it might not be the best class, and then you do the next class. And same thing in photography. I mean, you guys are so lucky. I mean, you take a picture, you take 1,000 pictures, and then just hit erase. When I learned photography, we had film, and that was expensive. So you were not able to shoot like 1,000 images. Every time you click the button, you were thinking about it, because every time it would cost money. Today, when I stand on my head, I just walk in, I do it. It looks kind of effortless. I mean, especially for somebody from the outside, I definitely find a few points that I always could improve. But nobody sees that I fell like 500 times. Nobody sees that it took years to do this. Nobody sees how many hours I spent on a yoga mat. Nobody sees how many hours I had a camera in my hands. Sometimes the journey is long. Sometimes the journey isn't easy, especially if you have no talent. Like I had no talent. But it's worth it. And I think nowadays it's not good to not value that. Especially with things you can't buy. These things you can't buy. You can buy an expensive camera, but that doesn't give you the ability to take a good picture. You can buy an expensive yoga mat, but that doesn't give you a headstand. So practice has really a lot of value, because it teaches us that with small steps we can achieve big goals. With small steps we really can change our life. With small steps we can free our mind from ideas that we had for a long time. With small steps we can realize our potential. This is it about the value of practice. It's definitely something to consider, because we have all these digital tools now. I mean, you can't really use them in yoga, but you can definitely use them to create a vlog or to take pictures. But still, this doesn't buy you any ability to do anything. This only gives you like a tool in your hands. It's like a good yoga mat, but it doesn't do much. The only thing that does something is to do it every day, like I do this vlog, and hopefully one day I'll master the vlog as well. But I know I'm still far away from that stage. And that's pretty much it, you know? It's just doing it. Just do it. Nike was right. So whatever you want to do, just do it. I see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Bye for now. Walk in and lift up. 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale, exhale, slowly come down. Bring your head down, arms back. Child's pose. By the way, this was the 30th vlog. That's pretty good, I have nothing here to celebrate though. But I should celebrate, and so should you.